What if I told you the fastest way to multiply your money is not by saving it, not by investing it, but by giving it to people you don't even like? Yes, your enemies. It sounds crazy, it feels wrong, but hidden in ancient wisdom is a law so powerful, most people reject it before they ever understand it. Most people think money is something you hold, control and protect at all costs. They treat it like a limited resource that must be guarded tightly, as if letting go of it even a little means losing power. But there is a deeper understanding found in ancient wisdom. Money is not just paper, coins, or numbers on a screen. It behaves more like energy, and just like energy, it is meant to move, circulate, and flow. Think about water. When water flows freely, it stays fresh, clean, and life-giving. But when it is trapped, blocked, or stagnant, it becomes dirty and unusable. Wealth follows the same principle. When you allow it to move through giving, investing, and helping others, it remains alive and active in your life. But when you hold on to it with fear, anger, or resentment, you create stagnation. That stagnation doesn't just affect your finances, it affects your mindset, your opportunities, and your ability to grow. Now here's where it becomes uncomfortable for most people. It's easy to give when you feel good. It's easy to give to people you love, people who respect you, or people who might give something back. That kind of giving feels safe. It doesn't challenge your emotions, but the real test of understanding this law comes when your feelings resist it, when giving feels undeserved, when your ego says they don't deserve anything from me. At that moment, the issue is no longer about money. It becomes about the state of your inner world. When you hold on to money because of anger or resentment towards someone, you are not actually protecting your wealth, you are attaching your energy to negativity. You are allowing another person's actions to control how you behave, and in doing so you unconsciously shrink your own capacity to receive, because abundance and negativity cannot flow together freely. When you choose to give anyway, not recklessly but consciously, you break that pattern. You send a powerful signal to your mind and your environment. I am not operating from fear. I am not controlled by resentment. I have enough. I am enough. That shift, though invisible, is incredibly powerful. It changes how you see opportunities. It changes how you respond to challenges. It changes how others perceive you. And most importantly, it changes how you perceive yourself. This is why giving, especially when it feels difficult, is not a loss. It is a realignment. It reconnects you with the natural flow of abundance. There is also something deeper happening beneath the surface. When you give while holding anger, the act feels heavy and forced. But when you release that emotion and give from a place of clarity, even if it's just a small act, the energy behind that action becomes lighter, freer, and more expansive. That energy doesn't disappear. It circulates. It returns in ways that are often unexpected, through new ideas, new connections, or new opportunities. People often look for complex strategies to grow wealth, but they ignore this simple truth. Your internal state determines how freely wealth can move in your life. If your mindset is closed, defensive, and driven by fear, even large amounts of money will feel limited. But if your mindset is open, abundant, and detached from negativity, even small resources begin to multiply. So the next time you feel resistance to giving, pause for a moment, ask yourself, is this decision coming from strength or from fear, from abundance or from lack? Because wealth does not grow where it is imprisoned by emotion. It grows where it is allowed to flow freely. And the moment you understand that money is not something you lose when you give, but something you activate, you begin to step into a completely different level of financial and personal power. Most people believe that holding on to anger is a form of strength. They think that remembering what someone did to them, refusing to forgive, and cutting that person off completely is a way of protecting themselves. On the surface, it feels justified. It feels like control. But beneath that surface, something very different is happening. Something most people never notice. When someone hurts you, disrespects you, or becomes your enemy, a connection is created. Not a positive one, but a strong emotional link. Every time you think about them with anger, replay what happened, or feel resentment, you are feeding that connection. You are giving it energy. In a strange way, they continue to occupy space in your mind, your emotions, and even your decisions. This is what it means to be tied to someone. And here's the problem. As long as that tie exists, a part of your energy is not yours anymore. It is trapped in that loop of negativity. You may move on physically, you may stop talking to them, but internally, the connection remains active. It drains you slowly, subtly, and consistently. This is where the idea of giving becomes powerful in a completely unexpected way. When you give to someone you dislike, or even consider an enemy, you are not rewarding their behavior. You are not saying they were right. You are doing something much deeper. You are breaking the emotional pattern that keeps you tied to them, because giving shifts your position. Instead of being someone who is reacting to pain, you become someone who is acting from choice. Instead of being controlled by what they did, you take control of how you respond, and that shift changes everything. Think about it carefully. As long as your actions are based on what someone else did to you, they still have influence over your life. But the moment you act independently of that, especially in a way that contradicts negativity, you reclaim your power. Giving in this context becomes a tool of liberation. It cuts the invisible chain. It tells your mind, I am no longer defined by this experience. I am no longer controlled by this person. And once that message is internalized, something begins to loosen inside you. The emotional weight starts to lift. The constant background tension fades. You begin to feel lighter. And when your internal state becomes lighter, your external life starts to shift as well. You think more clearly. You make better decisions. You become more open to opportunities instead of being stuck in past wounds. Many people don't realize that their financial struggles are not just about money. They are about mental and emotional blockages. Resentment, anger, and grudges act like anchors. They keep you focused on what was taken from you instead of what you can still create. When you break that pattern, you free up energy that was previously locked away. Now it's important to understand that this doesn't mean you allow toxic people back into your life. It doesn't mean you trust them again or ignore boundaries. You can still protect yourself, keep your distance, and be wise in your decisions, but internally you let go. And giving is one of the fastest ways to do that, because it forces you to act against the very emotion that is holding you captive. It's like unlocking a door from the inside. No one else can do it for you. The person you're holding on to may not even be thinking about you anymore. They've moved on. But if you're still carrying the weight, then you are the one paying the price. So when you give not out of weakness, but out of awareness, you are not losing anything. You are reclaiming something far more valuable, your freedom. Freedom from constant emotional reactions, freedom from mental distractions, freedom from being tied to someone who no longer deserves your energy. And once you are free, your focus returns to where it truly belongs, your growth, your future, and your ability to create abundance. Because wealth in every form grows best in a mind that is not burdened by the past. It grows in a mind that is clear, focused, and fully in control. And sometimes the simplest act, like giving, can be the key that unlocks that control. Most people believe power is about control. Controlling situations, controlling outcomes, and most of all, controlling other people. But real power operates on a completely different level. It is not about dominance over others, it is about mastery over yourself. And the greatest test of that mastery is not how you act when things are easy, but how you respond when your ego is challenged. Anyone can be generous when it feels good. Anyone can give when there is appreciation, respect, or recognition waiting on the other side. That kind of giving doesn't require strength. It's natural, almost automatic. But the moment your ego gets involved, everything changes. The ego keeps score. It remembers who treated you well and who didn't. It constantly whispers, why should you give to them? What have they done for you? They don't deserve it. And in many ways the ego sounds logical. It tries to protect your sense of fairness and identity. But at the same time it quietly traps you in a cycle of reaction. Because if your actions are always based on who deserves what, then your behavior is no longer coming from your own values, it's coming from external circumstances. That is not power, that is dependency. True power begins the moment you stop letting your ego decide your actions. When you choose to act based on principle instead of emotion, you step into a completely different level of control. You are no longer reacting to the world, you are defining how you show up in it. And that shift is what separates average thinking from extraordinary thinking. Giving, especially to someone you don't like, becomes a powerful training ground for this kind of mastery, because it forces you to confront your ego directly. It brings up resistance, discomfort, even internal conflict. But instead of avoiding that feeling, you move through it. You act anyway, not because it feels good, but because you've decided who you want to be. In that moment, something important happens. You prove to yourself that your emotions do not control you. You prove that your identity is not built on reactions, but on choices. And that realization builds a deep, unshakable confidence. Not the kind of confidence that depends on success or approval, but the kind that comes from knowing you are in control of your own mind. Most people never reach this level because they are constantly reacting. If someone is kind, they are kind back. If someone is rude, they respond with anger. Their entire emotional state is dictated by the behavior of others. And over time, this creates instability. Their mood, their decisions, even their opportunities rise and fall based on external triggers. But when you rise above that pattern, you become steady. You become focused. You become dangerous, in a positive way, because nothing can easily throw you off your path. Acting beyond ego doesn't mean you become passive or weak. In fact, it's the opposite. It requires discipline. It requires awareness. It requires the ability to pause, observe your emotions, and choose a higher response instead of an immediate reaction. And this is exactly the kind of mindset that creates long-term success and wealth. Because in business, in relationships, and in life, there will always be moments where your ego wants to take over. Moments where you feel disrespected, overlooked, or treated unfairly. If you react emotionally in those moments, you make decisions that may feel satisfying in the short term but cost you in the long run. But if you act from principle, you stay aligned with your bigger vision. You make decisions based on growth, not pride. You move forward while others stay stuck in emotional cycles. Over time, this difference becomes massive. While others burn bridges, you build them. While others react, you strategize. While others stay trapped in ego, you operate from clarity. And that clarity attracts opportunities, trust, and influence. So when you choose to give without ego, even in situations where your feelings resist it, you are not just performing an action, you are strengthening a mindset. You are training yourself to operate at a higher level than most people ever reach. Because real power is not about proving something to others, it is about proving to yourself that nothing controls you. When most people think about giving, they automatically associate it with some expectation of return. They give to friends, family, or colleagues with the hope that it will come back to them, maybe as gratitude, respect, or even a favor in the future. But the reality of true abundance operates on a different principle. The most powerful form of giving is the one that is pure, unconditional, and detached from any expectation of reciprocity. And this is where many people stumble, because giving without expecting anything in return requires courage, discipline, and a mindset few cultivate. The first step in understanding this is to recognize why giving to those who may never repay you is so powerful. When you give to someone who expects nothing from you, there is no transactional energy involved. There is no hidden agenda, no unspoken contract, no ego-based calculation. The act is completely free of conditions. It is authentic, raw, and transformative, not just for the person receiving, but for you as the giver. This kind of pure giving has a unique energy that ordinary giving does not. When you give without expecting, you are essentially saying, I am enough. I have enough. My value is not determined by what I get back. That mindset is incredibly powerful because it releases you from the mental and emotional chains that tie wealth and success to approval or reciprocation. You stop being reactive. You stop being limited by what others choose to do. And in that freedom, you create space for abundance to flow. When giving is done purely, it becomes a magnet for unexpected returns. These returns rarely follow the direct path we imagine. They might show up as new opportunities, unexpected relationships, innovative ideas, or even a shift in perspective that changes your life trajectory. The universe, or the natural law that governs energy, responds to authenticity. When you act from pure intent, the world tends to respond in kind. And the fascinating part is that these returns often multiply far beyond what you initially gave. Consider how giving to someone who dislikes you, or who may even be your enemy, works under this law. Most people think it is foolish, even dangerous, to help someone who has wronged them. But when done with the right mindset, it is a strategic act of power, because it disrupts patterns of negativity, it demonstrates mastery over emotion, and it creates an energy that cannot be contained. You are no longer reacting to grudges or resentment. You are acting from principle. That action sends a signal, not just to the person receiving it, but to the universe, to your environment, and most importantly, to your subconscious mind, that you operate on a higher level. The key is understanding that the return on pure giving is never guaranteed in the short term, and it rarely looks like what we expect. That's precisely why it is so transformative. If the act were easy, it would not require discipline or courage. If it always produced immediate results, it would be transactional, not pure. The power lies in doing it even when you don't see a direct benefit, because the very act reshapes your mindset and your capacity to attract wealth and opportunities. Pure giving also cultivates resilience. It teaches you to separate your actions from the responses of others. You learn to act with integrity and clarity, regardless of external circumstances. Over time, this consistency builds trust, influence, and respect, qualities that are far more valuable than money alone. And as your internal state shifts from expectation to freedom, you begin to notice that your world itself begins to change. Opportunities appear more readily. Collaborations become easier. Even your relationships improve, because you are operating from a place of authenticity rather than calculation. In essence, pure giving is a multiplier. It magnifies not only the resources you give, but also the potential for abundance to return to you in ways you could never have planned. And the beauty of this law is that anyone can practice it. No special skill, position, or wealth is required. It starts with a mindset, a choice, and the courage to act beyond expectation. When you embrace this form of giving, you are no longer a passive participant in life. You become an active creator of abundance, a magnet for unexpected opportunities, and a living example of how wealth, influence, and success flow naturally when they are rooted in authenticity and principle. True abundance in life is not just about accumulating money, assets, or material possessions. Many people spend their entire lives chasing wealth, believing that it exists only outside themselves. They focus on strategies, investments, deals, and opportunities, hoping that the next move will finally bring them security and freedom. But what ancient wisdom teaches, and what the most successful people understand, is that real abundance is less about what you have and more about who you become. The moment you cultivate the qualities, mindset, and behaviors of someone who is naturally abundant, wealth naturally follows. At the core of this principle is the idea that your inner state creates your outer reality. If you operate from scarcity, fear, or resentment, you send out signals to the world that reflect limitation. Your actions, decisions, and interactions are filtered through worry and hesitation, and opportunities either pass you by or appear in ways that feel small and constrained. On the other hand, if you operate from abundance, generosity, and clarity, your energy aligns with growth. You begin to see possibilities that others overlook, take risks that others avoid, and attract people and circumstances that amplify your potential. One of the most striking ways this principle manifests is through giving. Giving is not just a transactional act, it is a reflection of your internal abundance. When you give freely, especially when it is challenging, you are expressing confidence in your own ability to create, earn, and thrive. You are signaling that your resources are not finite and that you are not defined by lack. This mindset alone transforms how wealth flows into your life, because you are no longer bound by fear or limitation. Giving to others, including those who may not return it, acts as a powerful mirror. It forces you to rise above ego, resentment, and fear. It forces you to act from principle rather than reaction, and in doing so, you begin to embody the qualities of a person who naturally attracts wealth: discipline, emotional control, clarity of intention, and a focus on long-term impact rather than immediate reward. These are not superficial traits. They are internal alignments that shape behavior, decision-making, and ultimately outcomes. Another essential aspect of this law is understanding that abundance is relational, not just transactional. Your wealth, influence, and opportunities grow in proportion to the value you create and the energy you contribute to the world. When you act with integrity, generosity, and courage, you magnetize support, collaboration, and unforeseen opportunities. Life responds to the vibration you emit. If your mindset is focused on becoming more disciplined, more compassionate, more wise, you attract circumstances that match that level of evolution. This principle also emphasizes the importance of growth over fixation. Too many people measure wealth in fixed terms, bank accounts, material possessions, status, but someone who focuses on who they are becoming understands that these external measures are fleeting. They rise above the obsession with what is outside them and invest in cultivating qualities that are enduring. Patience, courage, generosity, and clarity are far more valuable than any immediate financial gain. These qualities create compounding effects over time, much like interest on an investment, resulting in consistent and sustainable abundance. Importantly, this mindset requires practice and conscious effort. Becoming the kind of person wealth naturally follows is not passive. It involves facing challenges, making difficult decisions, and acting even when outcomes are uncertain. It requires you to give without expectation, to remain composed when emotions run high, and to act with integrity when shortcuts seem tempting. Every decision, every choice, every act of generosity, even small ones, shapes the version of yourself that attracts greater opportunities and abundance. Ultimately, this keynote teaches that wealth is not an external accumulation. It is the reflection of your inner evolution. The more you invest in becoming a person who embodies abundance, clarity, generosity, and discipline, the more life will align to reward you. Opportunities multiply, relationships deepen, and financial prosperity grows almost effortlessly because it flows naturally to someone who has developed the inner infrastructure to handle it wisely. When you embrace this truth, you stop chasing wealth blindly and start cultivating yourself. You begin to understand that giving, rising above ego, acting with principle, and practicing pure generosity are all steps in becoming the person life wants to reward. In this way, abundance becomes inevitable, not because of luck, timing, or strategy, but because of who you are at your core. The moment you truly focus on who you are becoming, wealth, opportunity, and success cannot help but follow.